And the Lord said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence, and through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Get thee a multitude of laborers and a stave. Make the laborers stand in a single file line for many leagues, and pass the stave to the laborer at the back. Why is Yahweh telling Noah to build a peasant railgun? So, hello and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Divinity, where we take a look at God's Word through the lens of the devil's game. Now, why did I cold open with the Peasant Railgun when we're talking about Noah's Ark? Well, so for those of you who aren't in the know, a Peasant Railgun is where you take a bunch of peasants, have them stand, back to front, and you give them you give all the peasants except for the one in the front the command to pass a stick to the peasant immediately in front of them, and then you give the peasant in front the command to throw the stick as hard as they can. Now, in theory, the peasant railgun works because in D&D a round is 6 seconds. So once you start the chain, the stick will move all the way up to the front of the miles-long line of peasants in 6 seconds, and thus have an insane amount of velocity attached to it and do an insane amount of damage. That's how it's presented as working. However, in reality, the Peasant Railgun only works when you cherry pick from both the rules of D&D and the laws of physics. You can't have a Peasant Railgun working consistently without cherry picking between rule sets. So the question we're going through today is Noah's Ark a Peasant Railgun? Now, so to undergo this, first we are going to have some ground rules. 1, I am assuming that Noah is a 20th level wizard and his sons are 10th level wizards. 2, I will be going with so at first I will go under the AIG assumption that, AIG apologetic, that Noah took smaller, younger animals on the ark. But to be fair, I will also say whether or not it works with mature animals. Thirdly, I'm using a list of creatures with the beast subtype from the D&D, compiled from all the different D&D splat books. I will link to it in the description. And I am working under the assumption that if, a baby specimen goes down the size category. So a baby gargantuan creature is huge, lot to, down, and so forth. And I So the D&D, all of the creatures, there are only 142 creatures with the beast subtype in D&D 5th edition. That includes ones with a swim speed, which by Yahweh's stipulations technically wouldn't be on the ark, but to be fair, in D&D there's all the I'm just taking the entire list, and saying sure, there are ones on the list that wouldn't technically go on the ark as per, most interpretations of the story. However, the monster, the beast list in the monster manual doesn't, can to make certain animals, you have to essentially just pick the stat of a similar creature and just use that. So I figure between what beasts we have stat blocks for, and including prehistoric beasts being incomplete, and it extending the fact that adding the ones with swim speeds, just for the sake of numbers, probably makes it even, and to be honest, it probably still is on the lower end of how many kinds would be on the ark. So, but this is D&D and the Bible. Finally, last ground rule. I am not dealing with the flood itself, because that is that is covered under the broad category of DM fiat. You can just say that it was the flood is a temporary convergence between the material plane and the plane of water, and all of the water went back to the plane of water. It's actually kind of easier to bullshit away the flood in D&D terms than it is trying to use real world physics, like if using the Bible in the real world. If you try to mesh the story of Noah's Ark as literally as you can from its depiction in the Bible to our real world physics, yes, the story of Noah's Ark is a Peasant Railgun. However, the question is, can we make it work in D&D? So, first, building the ark. Noah built the ark when he was 600. Okay, can't happen. Humans only live to 200 max. He's Noah and his sons would be far dead by now. Okay, so video over. No. Let's say Noah and his family are all elves, and then as time goes on, people became half elves and then humans, because lifespans deteriorating as you get further in time in the Bible. Sure, whatever. Adam and Eve were forged, and then by the time we get to Noah, everyone's elves except for the Aasimar, but Yahweh didn't like the Aasimar, which is why he's flooding everything. Okay, Noah's an elf. Elves live up to 1,000 years. Well within his prime. Noah's a 20th level wizard, and I'm presuming he has the materials. He's a 20th level wizard. He has 3 10th level wizards to help him. Now, there is a spell that can help you build a massive, structure. It's called fabricate. When you convert raw materials into something. So, however, you can only do 10 cubic feet of materials per casting. So to construct a structure the size that the Bible says Noah's Ark would would take 150,188 castings of fabricate. Well, how many times can, assuming they're using all their spell slots that they can use for fabricate, how many castings of fabricate can Noah and his sons do per day? That would be 30, because fabricate's 4th level spell. Each of the sons can cast it 5 times and get an extra casting back if they take a long rest, or if they take a short rest, because of Arcane Recovery, which lets you recover up to half your wizard level spells in spell slots of 5th level or lower. So they would get an extra casting of fabricate at 10, as 10th level wizards. And Noah would get 14 total. So each of the sons all together would get 14 castings with Arcane Recovery. Noah would get 14 without and get an extra 2 castings back with Arcane Recovery. So we're looking at 30 total castings of fabricate per day. And we're going to assume that they're mended together, because I run mending as essentially magic welding. It doesn't break the spell. It takes a minute to cast. So, and 30 rounds is not even a minute. 30 rounds is just about 3 minutes. So they can blow all their castings in 3 minutes, that they're gonna, and then spend the rest of their workday mending the panels together. Now, at 30 castings per day, how long would it take to fabricate the ark? It would take 5,007 days. I'm rounding up because they, once you run out of spell slots, you need to take a long rest to recover all of them. So once you blow through the 30, you're gonna, I can't round down. I've got to round up, just because of how spell slots work in D&D. So we've got 5,007 days of just fabricating the ark, which is equivalent to 13 years, 8 months, and 19 days. I'm going to go ahead and say, the animals show up as per DM fiat. Now, can we get the animals to fit onto this ark? Yes. There are quite a few spells that make extra dimensional spaces. However, the only one that will work for our purposes is Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion. It makes up to 150 10-foot cubes of extra dimensional space. It basically opens up a doorway into a mansion, or for our purposes, because you can have it decorated how you want as per the rules of the spell. You can, so we're gonna basically make our magnificent mansions a bunch of stalls, and we're gonna cram as many in there. And so Noah, with his 3, because Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion is a 7th level spell, so he gets 3 slots with which he can cast it, and the Suns don't get any. So we have essentially 150 cubes of space that we have available. And if you're going to be asking about maintenance and feeding, the spell actually does conjure invisible servants and food that can feed 100 people once you cast it. And we're going to have, and the mansion lasts for 24 hours, so he's going to be casting it every single day. So most of the food, like, assuming we can fit all the animals in, most of the food's going to be taken care of. Now, so according to the list I took, and once again, we're going with, we're assuming younger up to, we're assuming younger, so down a size category. So there is one gargantuan-sized creature in D&D 5e, which is the Brontosaurus. And I know Brontosaurus wasn't really a thing, but we're talking D&D, it's pop culture. And that would need 4 cubes of space. There are 17 huge-sized creatures, and that would need 34 cubes worth of space. 33 medium, or 54 large, would need 54 cubes worth of space, because a large creature, uses up, and remember, this is cutting in half the size requirement, essentially in half, because we're going down a size category because of age, and 2 for each. 33 medium would need 17 cubes, and then the 33 tiny creatures would need 13 cubes worth of space. We have 150 cubes to work with. All of that adds up to 130 total cubes. So, and I did factor in the extra 5 for sacrificial animals in the calculation, in the calculations when I got to tiny, for the birds. And we have 20 cubes worth of space left over. So, yes, and now the question is, how would everything fit in? Because Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, the door is only 5 feet, is only 5 feet by 5 feet. Only a medium creature can walk through without squeezing. Well, so the gargantuan creature, being huge, would not be able to fit if we cast, through the door. A large creature would just barely be able to go through this extraplanar door. But for the large size babies, we'd be able to cast Enlarge Reduce on them, which is a 2nd level spell. So everyone can cast it at this point, and there's plenty of spell slots. For the gargantuan one, being huge, you can't cast, or you can't stack effects on a creature. So the gargantuan one would have to have Gaseous Form cast on it, but it'd be able to get into its into its own little mansion space. But what if we're talking fully adult animals? No. just no, we run out before we even get to the lark. Like just the huge and gargantuan creatures would use up all of our mansion space. So, ironically, if you take, if you take Noah's, if you take the AIG assumptions that Noah took younger, smaller individuals on board the ark, and you use the admittedly very pared down list of beasts available, beast stat blocks available, yes, Noah's Ark would work in Dungeons and Dragons. Now, whether or not a fabricated ark, that was mended together would survive a planet-sized water elemental rampaging across the surface, or just the immense waves from a planar convergence with the plane of water. That's beyond me. That you'd have to find the stats for the nearest size ship in D&D and see and work out what the damage a flood-sized elemental would be able to do, and the beast categories only go up to gargantuan, so you'd probably have to take a Leviathan or something akin to Tiamat and make the damage from that comparable. But so yes, if you make Noah an elf, a 20th level wizard, and his son's 10th level wizards, and give them and essentially yes, but you've got to use D&D magic to do it. So Noah's Ark is doable in D&D. It is not a Peasant Railgun in D&D. If you try to apply it to real life, it is a Peasant Railgun. There are plenty of videos explaining why trying to apply Noah's Ark to our real world, the Noah's Ark story literally to our real world, either breaks the story or breaks physics, usually both. In terms of our world here, Noah's Ark is a peasant railgun. In terms of D&D, it's actually doable. Now, a campaign of sitting around on a boat for a year sounds pretty boring to me, but I'm not Yahweh. So, with that, this might be my first and last edited content until until after Christmas, because peak's coming up. If I do get edited content out, it'll be in the next week or two. Otherwise, there's gonna be nothing till after Christmas. And with that, we'll just have to say, indoctrination is a hell of a drug. The legend lives on, from the Chippewa down to the big lake they call Gitchigumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. Oh, when the skies of November turn gloomy, does any man minutes to hours. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early. Ooh, and she's buying